Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Rick, and this is your Seat at the Table course. And we're looking at the Battletech fan project of Project Zhuhov. And forgive me if I butcher the damn pronunciation. As you well know, I truly love fan products. I do. I think they're really a cornerstone of most role-playing game systems, and it really allows us to expand and to build. One of the things that I love about some of these fan projects is the sheer passion and effort that were made on behalf of people who really truly love the hobby and the game and want to share and expand and build upon that. And one of them, of course, is it. I want to say that I did a video on something like this not long ago, and but I honestly don't think it's the exact same one. And if it is, then it's bad on me. It's 1,000+ videos on my channel. I tried looking it up, but not so good. So anyway, at the end of the day, in a nutshell, the creators of this particular project really are big fans of Hell's Horses, and I've said this numerous times over the years that I think it's a shame that all the individual clans should have a source book geared specifically towards them, all of them. And this is a grand example of what one for Hell's Horses ought to look like or should look like. And they make a couple of efforts in here to address some obvious shortcomings of the Clan Hell's Horses in a couple of ways. First off, let's look at, let's see, we have any information in here about it gives us, so I also want to thank Troy Daniels and Kim Frenson and a whole slew of other people. So I'm trying to find the feller that authored the book, where his name and stuff's at. Here we go. In the back, writing and written by Stephen Cross. PDF creation format by Willis Teal. Proofreading by Troy Daniels. Hey, Troy did a crack job. I didn't see any typos in here anywhere. Catalyst, are you listening? There's no typos in here. And this is a fan product. Just saying, right? So we got Matt Pogg, Bob Gravenstein, Matt Medea, Shadea Lane, and Harry Kilo. And if I butchered all your names, good for you. Welcome to the internet. So Project Zhukov, Breaking the Star. At the end of the day, like I said, so this is a fan project designed to not only to introduce players to Clan Hell's Horses. Let me put this fan down here. It's been a little stuffy in here. The weather here in Iowa, like everywhere else, has been kind of weird. It was in the 70s yesterday, and then it's supposed to hit 90 today, or damn close to it, and then drop back down into the 70s again tomorrow. So, well, it's just kind of been weird. But so, Clan's Hell Horses has been it's an interesting clan. They all are interesting in their own right, in my opinion, right? And the downside, of course, is raise this up here. I want to give you guys a little better view, then I bring it down in here, but then it really narrows down the workspace in here, right? And I have to be a little more conscientious of that. And then we got lighting, and of course the eyeball is like literally right at my eye level, so you need to buff it up just a hair, tilt it in. Everything's cockeyed a little bit today, like me, everything. Anyhow, so Hell's Horses had a couple conundrums. One being is, as Kerensky, when Nicholas Kerensky conceived the clans, each one had a kind of a purpose or role, and the role of infantry and infantry-related stuff, along with mixed arms sort of stuff, tanks and things like this, all kind of got handed to Clan Hell's Horses. And at some point, they deviated away. They become more like the rest of the clans, more heavy on the battle mechs and lighter on the tanks. When in reality, it should be the other way around. The other thing that the Hell's Horses should also have dominating them is infantry, in my mind, and they address some of that in here too. And Mr. Cross does a good takes a good or takes the time to make the effort to explain the hows and the whys to what's going on and why that's an issue and how it can be. So we get into let's see, we'll talk about this. Perhaps the most divisive and bitterly resented aspect of Project Zhuhov was the reorganization of the Hell's Horses Toman while remaining within the martial code of Kerensky. A reduced mech corps and an inability to replace them quickly or as easily called for the widespread deployment of tanks alongside mech forces to supplement them. The Nova formation allowed for the combination of forces of mechs and other units, but it was obvious that these grew in size very quickly and would become difficult to control. While other clans used the Nova to combine a star of mechs and elementals, this is pretty much self-contained. Adding a star of tanks along with any of their elemental forces for APCs, even foot infantry forces, and the size of the formation quickly balloons into a rather major unit. Not only did transporting such units become more challenging as they become more widespread due to the size and personal requirements, there are also command and control elements that had to be considered. As star captains were equal rank and position, it was felt that a clear chain of command would reduce any problems within the unit, as well as make it more flexible. As it stood, the Nova was, while tactically flexible, difficult to control as such a large formation. Within the inner sphere, mixed vehicle mech Nova was the equivalent in size to an inner sphere company, if not slightly bigger. And a company commander could delegate the duties to his or her, etc., etc. So they added the position of Nova commander rank that would help address that. One of the problems that this would involve for Hell's Horses would be that the sheer amount of infantry that Hell's Horses like to utilize and should have. And I really do believe that of all the clans. I believe Hell's Horses is the only clan that have a galaxy geared specifically to elementals. And it would have been interesting to see them field that entire galaxy in a battle as they took yet, but I don't know that it actually panned out that way. And it says right in there that in here the fan interpretation of that would be that it was just more of a logistical clerical body than an actual field galaxy. So it was just the way they managed to keep all these infantry units under one roof, if you will. And so to change that, and that's what these pages here, they go into some great detail on what they thought needed to be addressed and how it might need to be set up. And we get into another thing that had to come up with is, of all the clans, traditionally the mech warrior is the apex of the clan, and so you don't have a mech warrior driving a tank and then a tank warrior. So they come out with this new strain of genome that allows for people genetically engineered to be great tank commanders. Problem is, most tanks actually require a crew of 2 or more to operate. So then that becomes yet another problem that doesn't fit comfortably within Kerensky's very, narrow idea of how things should work. Then you had things like gunner and driver and loader and systems operators, all that stuff. So they address some of that in here. And then we also talk about the concept of the clans actually embrace this concept very like Blitzkrieg, overwhelming, highly mobile forces. So how do you build upon that with a larger formation and still keep in tune? And they talk about some of that in here, and then we go into some bit more, like the collapse exploiting gaps, and see theoretically that I won't get into that because it gets off. The Hell's Horses tactics are still basically recognizable as variations of Blitzkrieg when fighting the Intersphere forces against forces they consider dishonorable, such as mercenaries or enemies who already used deception. The horses would rely extensively on Blitzkrieg-esque tactics. This was different from the tactics used by the Great Houses, which started crystallizing during the Fourth Succession War. During the war, the Federated Commonwealth's armed forces used a modern interpretation of the Terran military concept of deep battle, which could be described as a kissing cousin to Blitzkrieg with a few differences in focus. Blitzkrieg was more tactically inclined with a focus on the battlefield, and deep battle had a broader scope and was more strategically focused. So you got to get a drift of what we're going on here. And then we talk about, with their smaller forces, the clans could attack a point, smash a single point in there. Other clans, different concepts of using the elementals. Then we get a little bit of differences on the difference of the two. trials and validation, trials of warrior. So it's not just enough that they've decided to create something, but they created something that justifies and explains how and why the changes for Hell's Horses ought to be made or could be made in a game perspective, and how they would play out and how it's recommended, and what would help make the Hell's Horses be distinctly a unique clan unto themselves, which which at the end of the day is not a bad thing. So anyway, then we get a little short story called "Basic Training for Crazy Horse Niles." Fort Crazy Horse, yeah, Fort Crazy Horse. 5 months later, right? Then we get a reaction and their changes and stuff. Dealing with rebalancing the fleet, getting close to the invasion of the inner sphere, the initial, invasion, the panic of 3048, the fighting the inner sphere, Tukiad, whole page and a half on Tukiad, occupation, worlds of note, lots of stuff. So this is not just a regular TRO. There's a little bit more going on. It's almost a source book, not quite a source book for Hell's Horses, definitely a TRO, but on the verge. There's enough stuff in here that it could easily have been expanded out. So we get Hell's Horses infantry uniforms, and then we get into some of their variations on the assault armor. So we got the Aster, otherwise known as the Gnome, and then we have the Electo, an assault battle suit that makes the Gnome look like a sick puppy. Then we have the Demos, a light environmental anti-infantry and reconnaissance suit, and then the standard, elemental battle suit. We get into other clan vehicles and Hell's surface, and we go through a list of them, and things like, let's see, weapons, inner sphere naming designations, some new weapon developments, hypervelocity rifle, the Gauss submachine gun, the Uber Gatlin submachine gun, or I guess, what is that? The Horse Gatlin gun type X99 with Cecil Tempt. Okay. Then we got the assault rifle, etc. I got a little stain on my page. It's been out in my work truck the past 2 weeks. I've been working my way through it. Battle armor, weapons and infantry weapons, and then we have chemical lasers, lightweight gun systems, heavy flamethrowers, then a standard clan Hell's Horses cluster, and the standard cavalry cluster. Nice breakouts. This sort of thing, call me old school, and I am old school. This I would dearly love to see in all the DMTROs. All of them should have this layout. All material that relates to any significant formation, mercenary command, house, be damned, I don't care. They should include these. But I'm old. I like that sort of stuff. So we get into the rank and file vehicles. We got up some attack helicopters and strike hovercraft. Once again, the only grief I have with this particular book, and it's got nothing to do with editing per se, and this crops up in other fan-made projects too. And it's a trick. There's a trick to this, and I've done this in my own books, so I know that you have to make sure that you offset stuff. So the photo of the vehicle or whatever is on the back side, and this photo should represent this entry. This photo should be on this page, so they cover this. So either this should be on this side and the photo should be here, which means that on the back of the photo would be the entry for the next machine. So, but it's not a deal breaker by any means. This thing's available on the internet. My understanding is out there. I will, when I get a chance, I will Google if I can find a place where you can maybe find a PDF for those that donated or know where this is and who made it. If you know there's an open source that anybody can access, by all means, please leave us a comment so people can go and find it. This is well worth having. I think you will not be disappointed. It will definitely flush out and deepen Hell's Horses as a clan, as a faction within the game. I think it's an awesome thing. So a lot of these, the Totem, their science case, we're looking at trying to take old Starlink vehicles and make them more pertinent and upgraded for the modern era of combat, and then building upon them from those, of course. And then, being that they were going to be more reliant on vehicles and infantry than they were in the past, they needed a little more diverse range of equipment. And so we see a lot of that entered in here. Another thing we see quite a bit of is APCs, or variations of vehicles that are designed to transport troops, specifically elementals, because a lot of battle armor didn't exist. There was some battle armor in the Starleague era. There was. Go look it up. But it was rare. And it was not common for the average infantry. It was not a big, it was very rare. So the APCs were designed for normal infantry, jump infantry, but nothing with battle suits of the scale that like the elemental. So the making sense that APCs would need to be modified and changed so they could deal with them and utilize them, because the vehicles where foot infantry can get in and can ingress and exgress from, not so much if you're weighing a suit that doubles or triples your size, right? And scout vehicles and the strike tanks and the heavy tanks and go on and go forth. So a lot of beautiful stuff. And I've always been a fan of vehicle combat, vehicles in general in the Inner Sphere, in Battletech. I think they're a very crucial component, and that you do yourself a disservice by not including them. So we get into an area of stuff that I'm always fascinated with. In this case, we're talking about industrial or engineering and recovery vehicles and support vehicles that I feel that are really, really represented in the Battletech universe. Although in recent decades, thankfully, from a lot of you guys have sent me these PDFs and provided me with information and stuff I could not have purchased on my own or did not have the opportunity to do when they came out, that I think some of that may have changed. We see a lot more projects with more additional, support vehicles in them. I would like to see more miniatures of support vehicles too, because that actually adds a much more realistic feel to a game scenario, or a tabletop. But then that's just my personal opinion, right? So, like any vehicle heavy combat unit, you're going to need vehicle support, and it talks about how that actually played a very important role in the success of Clan Wolf at the Battle of Tukiat. Hell's Horses was reserve clan after the second after they resumed their initial invasion of the Inner Sphere, after they'd replaced their lost Khan, and so the fact that you would need that or Hell's Horses came along, and they were a crusader clan, but the politics aside, they'd actually gotten along with Clan Wolf for a long time, and fairly compatible. And it was because Clan Wolf had such a working relationship with Hell's Horses that when the invasion of Tukiat takes place, Hell's Horses still play a role in that, including bringing along those bridge laying and other heavy equipment for doing things that a lot of vehicles would require that mechs do not, which is why I guess is where I was heading for that. So, like the bridge layer here kind of thing. We got the infantry fighting vehicles, fire support vehicles, lots of good stuff in here. I mean, really, I've read through every one of these things, and these people put some work and effort into it, and the artwork is fantastic. Honest to God, if this guy has not done some work for Catalyst or one of the other franchises, for shame, because this person's got some serious talent when it comes to these things, and I think you're grossly missing out on an opportunity, on a great artist in my mind. If you're not and you don't, well, kick rocks. Anyhow, we get into this mixture into the some additional battle armor. Another little personal quirk that I found sad, or I would have liked to have a bit more of some kind of category or separator to separate the tanks and vehicles from the battle armor, from the aerospace, because some of it just seems that it kind of feels sloppy. It feels like it's just kind of tossed in and tossed around, and they're easy to, if that's not the way the case, the intentions of the creators, I get you, but still. So get that light battle armor there, and here's that assault battle armor there. things like 2 tons, on par with the Kanga or something, or whatever it was, the created version of heavy battle armor. And I'm trying to think of what name it was off the top of the damn head. Probably not. Probably got it wrong. I know I got it wrong. It doesn't sound right. Desk and Runner, so we get an Omni-Mech. So once again, we're kind of bouncing around. We go to vehicles, now we got some assault armor, now we're going to go do an Omni-Mech or two, and that's fine. You expect to find Omni-Mechs in any clan, house horses included. I actually was kind of disappointed, though. Once again, nothing against the creators or the artists or any of that, but I think considering Clan Hell's Horse's unique perspective, perhaps all the entries for the Omni-Mechs should have been quads or quad based. And there's a lot of people who would decry quads and hate them, et cetera, and that's fine. You don't have to like them. I have had mixed results with the handful of quads I've used over the years. I like them. They're pretty damn stable for fire platforms, but they're very awkward in combat. In close combat, they're really not so good. The lack of arms really and hands really takes its role. Then we immediately transition to some starfighters, and which is great. I always like to see new aerospace fighters. What they included in here, more importantly, though, that I found really appealing is the support craft. Once again, leave it up to me being the support geek to want to have the support stuff. So they have the transport shuttles. How do we get these large infantry and combat units to the where they need to be? So here's the transport shuttle, the Palace, and the Morai troop carrier right there. You can get that perspective. The Iroquois troop carrier right there. Now you can really get to scale. You can really, really, really get to scale on this one. Maybe you can see the elemental battle suits or jump troops diving out of their little bins here, and then full-on tanks with parachutes are being kicked out the back doors. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is the sort of stuff that we don't have enough of in Battletech, in my opinion, for what little that opinion may be worth to some people. The Zenith assault ship, all right, and the Tartar troop carrier. When you really need to bring some serious firepower to the planet's surface in a hurry, the Ordon troop carrier, right? I'm just saying these were excellent in additions. And then we get some new clan warships. One of the things that was always interesting and to me, and we had talked about this over the years when it come to the jump ships and drop ship capacities of the inner sphere, the fact of it is to see that the clans were not really any more advanced, technically speaking, with warships than Inner Sphere were. The only difference was the clans still had theirs. And the lion's share of the clan's warships are actually centuries old SLDF ships. So they haven't built any massive fleet projects ever. But there is evidence, and there are some brand new designs, and so especially the Snow Ravens, having been well known for being large ship engineers or builders. So the clan negotiates a deal with the Snow Ravens to create a number of additional new warships for the clan, including the Thermopylae, which is a destroyer class. Nice lines. I like the artwork on this. Very nice. Very good job. And then we have the Halcyon assault cruiser. Meh. It's kind of a bulky looking thing, but not unreasonable, not out of crazy. Then we get into this section called the bonus section, which is bonus, but it also is a bit confusing because once again, parts of it's just like a continuation of this, and I'm not sure how it applies as a bonus in my mind. So the Delane's military equipment, the Clan's 3105 update. A little bit more information on the Krenskis, vehicles, and battle armor. The Born. See, I never could pronounce this stuff right because the J is supposed to be silent or the B is supposed to be silent. Born quad assault battle armor, this is the sort of stuff you would think for Hell's Horses would be a natural. So there's several variations on the same design. And then we talk about Ilkan Lincoln Oasis and why he's here when he ought to be way up front. Why is he even in here at all? I'm not so sure. There's got to be a connection there, but I wasn't able savvy or smart enough to figure it out. We got aerospace assets and warships, the Horus and Omni fighters. Once again, it's kind of this collage of stuff was like thrown in at the last minute as a bonus, when they could have been folded in with everything else along the way. Unless these were like last minute additions they weren't sure they were going to do or not, right? I'm just saying, the Mo heavy shuttle. The rock assault ship, the very sort of stuff that it justifies and explains how you would get large formations of troops, infantry, and vehicles to a combat zone. Typhoon, a destroyer class, the Thermaray, a frigate, the Bagration, a transport cruiser, and it acknowledges in there they didn't build very many. There's only a handful of each one of these designs that would have been built, in a non-canon setup, right? The Thebes heavy cruiser, but then again, as I argued before, and there's a great video somewhere in this collage of videos of mine where it talks about jump ships in general, and the percentage what we were given initially in the early days, and even since then. It's just a drop in a bucket to the sheer amount of stuff that we didn't have researched. So we know about the Star Lord and the merchant class jump ships and the scout class jump ships, but those were just a handful, and that there were many other types that were built that served similar roles. Some are earlier, some might be later, some by the houses, some by periphery powers. Way back in the day when shipbuilding was a major endeavor. So to say that this is the only things was to be disingenuous at best and a falsehood at worst. And so the fact that these doesn't show up in canon doesn't mean that they can't exist. So we got Star Captain Victor Mathis. I started after a minute thinking, okay, so some of this stuff is just other related stuff to other clans. Certainly starts getting a little confusing to me at that point, because we're talking Jade Falcons and other clans material, which once again, as a bonus section, okay, sure. But in reality, no offense, this should not have put this in there unless it's like something that the house horses have borrowed or stolen or taken or acquired and modified, because this whole thing should be devoted specifically to Hell's horses, in my opinion. Then we get into this controversial what the F. When I returned to Battletech and the first time I ran into the idea of a quad V, I was shocked that they would be in the game in the first place. And part of that shock had to do with me trying to understand how you could play that out. How is this a logistically, technically advisable idea? One. Two, it reeks of the Transformers. It reeks of an entirely different franchise, and no offense to the creators and the guys that conceptualize this. No. It just seems, we're back to the same argument we have for why the land air mechs are crap, would make these crap. Period. But that said, if this is your gig and you like them, knock yourself out. And hey, they did a great job. They got some additional ones to play with now, right? And some of these make more sense than the ones I saw that are canon in some of the early, the first ones I saw. I forget which TRO or book I saw it in. I was just like, "Are you effing me?" I thought I was being had. Somebody was playing with me, and then I realized, no, this is actually a thing, right? Anyway, so we got an epilogue, which is basically some more of a short story. And then, of course, the index. The index is always a lovely addition. I always think this. So, once again, Project Zhuhov, and I know damn well I'm butchering it, not pronouncing it well. This was really, really an enjoyable thing to read, and honestly makes me wish, once again, we see more things like this. I'm just saying that's really what I would like to see. I would love to see Catalyst create them, but since we know that's not going to happen, this is great work. And if there's just for anybody out there, the Battletech fans who have had projects like this that you never put into print, but you have a significant enough material that you can send to me, I can print out. By all means, you let me know. I would love to review your stuff and put it on the channel, because I think it's this awesome material. It's an awesome addition. It just really emphasizes the love and passion for the hobby and the franchise. It's 2 thumbs up, right? Anyway, I'm Rick. you're not. Thank you guys for putting up the videos, and I really am grateful for some of the other videos and stuff that I've put out and not put out. You know, it's the comments you guys have come up with. Lately, I've had a couple of really your comments come at some really important times that just help to get along. Some days it's hard to get out of bed. I ain't lying. It's just, it's another grind. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. Anyway, we're now half hour into this, and we're going ahead and bring this to an end. Well, like I said, I still wish, ideally, I could make this video, and then I could piece together the end bits and the second bits, and so I could spend the entire evening trying to enhance this to make this thing even nicer. But then I'd have one video a week, if that, because I don't want to learn all the extra skills it would take to make this stuff look fantastic. If I had the money, I'd hire people to do it. But till next time, once again,